Hello, and welcome to a video guide for Star Wars: The Old Republic. My name is Merlin, and today I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for the old PVE space battles in SWTOR. You can access space missions on your personal starship on the bridge. There's a mission terminal that contains a one-time mission for each space battle for which you're eligible, as well as various daily missions. You can begin a space battle via the galaxy map on the bridge of your personal starship. It's the same as traveling to a planet, except you pick the space battles, as you can see here, and you click on them and begin them instead. This video is only going to cover some tips and tricks that you'll need to know to clear the heroic Grade 7 space battles, and is not a complete primer on space battles in SWTOR. It's also important to note this is just the player versus environment, or PVE battles, and this is not at all the same as Galactic Starfighter or GSF, which is basically space PvP. For the PVE space battles, I recommend either Dolphy's Guide, that was published a long time ago, or more recently, SWTORista has put together a really great comprehensive guide that covers all the missions, the reputation, the titles, and the achievements, and has some nice summary outlines for every space battle. Okay, so first we need to discuss gearing for space battles. You can pick up gear for your personal starship from the vendor on the fleet in the Galactic Trade Market wing in the middle shop on the outer wing. You can pick up grade 1, 3, and 5 gear for credits, and honestly grade 5 gear is plenty to complete all of the space battles other than the heroics. You can also pick up the grade 7 gear from this vendor as well, which we'll discuss in a moment. However, I should also note you can also pick up grade 2, 4, and 6 gear that can be awarded from some space battles for the one-time missions, and some of them can be crafted if you receive a schematic from various missions like Investigation and some of the others. For the heroic grade 7 missions, you definitely are going to want to be as close to fully grade 7 gear as possible. Some of the easier missions you can complete without a full set, but the toughest mission, which is Thanium Disruption for Republic players, or Cha-Raba Assault on Imperial side, you're going to want all grade 7. As you can see, the purple grade 7 gear primarily costs fleet commendations, and there are a couple categories. The Proton Torpedo Tube costs 50 fleet commendations, and it is the only one that's bind on pickup, so it's one you're going to have to buy for yourself. Thankfully, you can grind out 50 fleet commendations pretty quickly just from doing the earlier missions, so that one usually isn't a big deal, and it's definitely something you'll want to pick up first, since pretty much all the grade 7 heroic missions require you to destroy a capital ship, for which you have to have a proton torpedo. The blaster condenser, deflection amplifier, laser cannons, durasteel armor, and improved EMP each cost 350 fleet comms. These can be purchased from the vendor, or can frequently be picked up on the GTN. The concussion missile magazine, deflector shield, and improved electronic warfare pod jammer are crafted by Cybertech. You can purchase the schematic from the vendor for 350 fleet comms per schematic, or you can buy the gear on the GTN. Lastly, you can buy the improved power conversion module from the vendor for 200,000 credits. I definitely recommend picking this up as soon as possible, as it is essential for every mission and is really, really powerful. In terms of gearing strategy, I would definitely say to pick up the Proton Torpedo first via fleet commendations and purchase the power conversion module. For the crafted gear, I would usually say you can pick those up pretty cheap because those mats are easy to come by nowadays. So either get those in the GTN, or if you have a buddy with Cybertech that already has the schematics, then get them to craft you some. And then you really are only left needing about 5 pieces that you can kind of pick up as you go, or pick up on the GTN for maybe a couple million credits, which may be a lot or may not depending on your circumstances. Okay, let's get into the tips and tricks section. Here are a few techniques that will really help your performance in the heroic space missions, because these are tips and tricks that'll be great for every mission, but really aren't mandatory until you get to those final quote-unquote endgame space battles. The first tip is to use your keyboard and mouse to pilot your starship. The heroics present a lot of obstacles, a lot of incoming fire, and many, many more targets than the earlier missions. Optimizing your piloting to maintain uptime on enemy targets with your blasters, while at the same time navigating to avoid damage and dodge incoming fire, is a key to success. While you can play space missions almost entirely with your mouse, I do not recommend it. Your starship will naturally follow the mouse cursor, which is also how you aim your blasters and target your missiles, so it can be difficult to fire at enemies while dodging incoming fire or dodging obstacles. You can use your WASD keys on your keyboard to steer your starship in the general direction you want, and then you can continue using your mouse to target enemies. If that isn't enough to dodge incoming fire or dodge obstacles, then you can use your mouse and WASD keys, which will not only let you move further, but will also let you move faster across the screen, which can be really helpful. The heroics have a lot more enemy fighters, capital ship turrets, and mines. Unlike the earlier space missions where you can mostly ignore enemy attacks, in the heroics you must dodge enemy fire to survive, and that's where our second tip comes in. The previous tip is critical to separate your piloting and targeting. After all, the faster you can destroy enemy targets, the less incoming fire you need to dodge. However, that by itself is not always enough. I recommend you get in the habit of continuously moving your ship in a circular pattern using the WASD keys. If you make the circle just big enough, you will passively dodge the majority of incoming enemy fire. If you need to use the keys to dodge obstacles, then do so, but otherwise resume this pattern anytime it is safe to do so. The spacebar key is also very useful when you need more extreme dodging, and I use that frequently when there's a lot of incoming fire, but typically find this helps me keep my incoming damage pretty manageable in all except the most extreme waves of enemy incoming fire. As I mentioned, there's a lot more movement and dodging in the heroics. This makes it tough to manually target enemy starfighters and capital ship turrets and hardpoints with your missiles, because you need to spend as much time as possible blasting stuff with your blasters. And that's where our third tip comes in. The trick to doing this is the right mouse button, which if you hold it, will automatically queue up to 4 missile targets as you move your cursor across eligible targets. Then as soon as you release the right mouse button, the missiles will fire. I always use this strategy for launching missiles in the heroics unless I need to target specific enemy capital ship hardpoints or satellites, or if I need to spam missiles at one specific target. In that case, you can just right mouse click to fire as usual. I also find it very useful to use this strategy to attack enemy targets when I have to do extreme maneuvering, as it can be difficult to target them with blasters and not run into stuff. The Thanium Disruption or Cha-Raba Assault mission is a great example where you are continuously dodging asteroids and taking heavy incoming fire, so this strategy is great for continuing to just mouse over them and keep firing missiles pretty steadily even while you don't really have time to dodge the rocks while still blasting them with your blasters. Our fourth tip is about using the power conversion module. The power conversion module is really powerful if used effectively. You should enable it at the beginning of the mission to boost your blaster power and keep it that way most of the fight. Anytime you have a few seconds of downtime, swap over to shield regeneration to let your shields heal back to full. Make sure to avoid using blasters though, as it dramatically slows shield regeneration. With the improved power conversion module, it only takes a few seconds to get your shields back to full, so if you really need to target enemies during that time, try to use missiles instead and get your shields back up as quickly as possible. The last tip is planning the use of the EMP and jammer. The EMP generator and electric warfare pod, aka the jammer, are your offensive and defensive cooldowns respectively. You typically only get to use these once or maybe twice per battle, so make sure to time their use well. The EMP generator is amazing at destroying capital ship turrets, and usually the best time to use it is when you're near a capital ship or a cluster of frigates where you can take out a dozen or more targets all at once. The jammer is great for phases where there are lots of incoming enemy starships, or when you're flying by capital ships with their many turrets, or flying through a minefield. I typically only use the jammer as a defensive cooldown to react if my shields go down and I don't have time to swap my power conversion module and regenerate. Basically an oh crap moment. The only time I really specifically recommend planning the use of the jammer is the Thanium Disruption Cha-Raba Assault mission, where you have to fly through a minefield, and the jammer is great for that purpose because you need to save your EMP generator to use on the frigate to knock down its turrets. So that's it for now on space missions. Again, please check out SWTORista's full guide on our website, as it has a lot of detail I did not cover here. I hope to make some additional quick walkthrough videos for each heroic space battle to help give you some more specific tips, but honestly, the above tips, if executed well, are all you really need, along with a little bit of practice and some good gear to clear all the old PVE space battles in SWTOR. Thanks very much, and good luck in SWTOR.